December 18th, 2022, Lusail Stadium, Qatar. 80,000 fans held their breath as a 35-year-old man who'd been told for 15 years he'd never be complete without this trophy stood over a penalty in the World Cup final shootout. The weight of a nation, the ghost of Maradona, and the entire football world watching. By the time the ball hit the net, not only had he silenced every doubter, but he'd also cemented a legacy 2 decades in the making. This is the story of how a fragile teenager from Rosario became the greatest footballer the world has ever seen. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back, way back, to a time when Lionel Messi wasn't a name that made defenders tremble, when he wasn't the face of a generation, when he was just a kid who might never play professional football at all. Rosario, Argentina, 1995. While most 11-year-olds dreamed of emulating their heroes, Lionel Messi was fighting a different battle entirely: growth hormone deficiency, a condition that meant his body wouldn't grow the way it should. The treatment: nightly hormone injections. Painful, expensive, and essential if he wanted any chance of an everyday life, let alone a football career. His local club, Newell's Old Boys, had spotted his talent early. The kid was magical, with a ball at his feet, dancing past players twice his size with an ease that seemed impossible. But magic doesn't pay medical bills. The injections cost nearly $900 a month, a fortune for a working-class family in 1990s Argentina. Newell promised to help. They didn't. His father's insurance covered part of it, then it stopped. This is where most stories end. Talent discovered too late, potential crushed by economics. The beautiful game revealing its ugly truth, that genius means nothing without opportunity. But Messi's story was about to take a turn that would reshape football history. Enter Carles Rexach, Barcelona's technical director, a man who'd seen it all in his decades at the club. Championships, heartbreaks, thousands of trialists who promised the world and delivered nothing. He'd become skeptical, hardened by experience. Yet when he watched this 13-year-old Argentine kid play in a trial session in September 2000, something shifted. The official story says Rexach was so convinced that he signed Messi's first contract on a paper napkin at a Barcelona tennis club. Romantic, dramatic, perfect for the headlines. The truth? The napkin was real, but it wasn't legally binding. What mattered was what came next. Barcelona agreeing to cover Messi's medical treatment in full, relocating his entire family to Spain, and betting their academy's future on a child who weighed barely 90 pounds. Think about that gamble for a moment. This wasn't just signing a promising youth player. This was committing to years of expensive medical intervention for a kid who might never reach professional height, who spoke no Catalan, who'd never left Argentina, whose entire family would need support in a foreign country. The financial risk was enormous. The sporting risk is even greater. Real Madrid had the chance too. They'd heard about the Argentine prodigy. They watched him play. They walked away. Too small, too expensive, too uncertain. It would become one of the most catastrophic mistakes in their history. Because what Barcelona saw wasn't just a talented kid. They saw philosophy made flesh. For decades, La Masia, Barcelona's famed academy, had preached a gospel of possession football, technical brilliance, and tactical intelligence over physical dominance. They'd produced legends: Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol. But Messi was different. He was the purest distillation of everything Barcelona claimed to believe in. Small, skillful, impossible to dispose of. A player who made the ball seem magnetized to his feet. The early years weren't easy. Homesickness hit hard. His father Jorge struggled to find work. His mother Celia hated Barcelona and eventually moved back to Argentina. Lionel was a shy, quiet teenager in a foreign country, receiving nightly injections as he tried to prove he belonged while his body slowly caught up to his talent. He barely spoke in training, let his feet do the talking instead, and talk they did. By 2003, at the age of 16, Messi was already training with Barcelona's first team. Not as a publicity stunt, not to sell jerseys, because he was genuinely good enough to compete with professionals. Frank Rijkaard, Barcelona's manager, saw immediately what Rexach had seen 3 years earlier. This wasn't potential, this was inevitable. October 16, 2004, Barcelona versus Espanyol. Messi came on as a substitute in the 82nd minute, becoming the youngest player ever to represent Barcelona in La Liga at 17 years, 3 months and 22 days. He touched the ball 9 times, completed 6 passes, played 8 minutes, left the Camp Nou crowd buzzing with a single thought: we've just seen something special. But special wasn't enough. Not at Barcelona, not with the weight of history pressing down on every player who wore the famous Blaugrana jersey. The club had gone 5 years without a La Liga title. Their last Champions League trophy came in 1992. Real Madrid, meanwhile, had won 3 Champions Leagues in 5 years between 1998 and 2002. The rivalry wasn't competitive, it was humiliating. For Barcelona fans watching this skinny Argentine kid dribble past defenders in meaningless minutes at the end of matches, hope felt dangerous. They'd been hurt before and promised saviors who delivered nothing. Ronaldinho had arrived a year earlier and sparked genuine optimism. But one Brazilian genius wasn't enough to overcome years of institutional decline and Madrid's Galactico dominance. What they didn't know, what nobody could have known, was that they weren't watching a talented prospect finding his feet. They were watching the beginning of one of the most incredible individual careers in football history, and the spark that would ignite the most dominant club era the sport has ever witnessed. Messi's first goal came on May 1st, 2005, Albacete. A Ronaldinho assist, a delicate chip over the goalkeeper, 17 years old, the youngest Barcelona scorer ever. The celebration was joyful, all cameras tuning in on this kid. Even then, you could see the humility that would define his entire career, the sense that individual glory mattered less than collective success. That 2004-05 season ended with Barcelona's first La Liga title in 6 years. Messi had played 7 matches, scored 1 goal, contributed almost nothing statistically, but inside the dressing room, something had shifted. The senior players saw how he trained, how he absorbed information, how he never complained about limited minutes or bit-part roles. Ronaldinho, the team's undisputed star, took him under his wing, not as competition, as a protege, as the future. Real Madrid noticed too. How could they not? This was the kid they dismissed as too small, too risky. Now he was wearing Barcelona's colours and winning titles and getting standing ovations at the Camp Nou for 5-minute cameos. The same scouts who'd recommended passing on him suddenly found their judgment questioned. But what could Madrid do? Messi wasn't just contracted to Barcelona, he was becoming Barcelona. The club's identity and the player's destiny were fusing into something inseparable. The 2005-06 season was the explosion. 25 appearances, 8 goals. His first Champions League goal was against Panathinaikos at 17. The world started paying attention. Not just Spanish football journalists or Barcelona supporters, everyone. Chelsea wanted him, Manchester United scouted him, Inter Milan inquired about availability. Barcelona's answer was always the same: not for sale, not at any price. Because by now, they understood what they had. This wasn't just another La Masia graduate. This was the player who would define the next decade of European football. The one who would turn Barcelona from a club into a dynasty. The one who would make Real Madrid's Galactico era look like ancient history. That season ended with Barcelona winning La Liga again and lifting the Champions League trophy in Paris, their first in 14 years. Messi didn't play in the final, injured just before the tournament's knockout stages. At 18 years old, he had a Champions League medal. Most players retire without one. Still, questions lingered. Could he do it consistently? Could he carry a team when Ronaldinho's form eventually declined? Could someone that small, that young, that physically unimposing dominate the most competitive league in the world, season after season? Real Madrid certainly didn't think so. They were busy preparing their next Galactico signing, confident that individual brilliance and financial power would always trump Barcelona's academy-focused philosophy. They had no idea what was coming. Because Lionel Messi wasn't finished developing, he was barely getting started. And the shy teenager who once needed nightly injections to grow was about to become the most unstoppable force football had ever seen, and Barcelona's ultimate weapon in the war against Madrid. Barcelona had just won the Champions League. Messi had a winner's medal at 18. The future looked inevitable, predictable, even a steady rise to stardom, trophies accumulating year after year, records falling like dominoes. But football doesn't work that way. Success is never linear. And what came next would test everything Messi and Barcelona believed about themselves. The 2006-07 season started with optimism. How could it not? Barcelona were European champions. They had Ronaldinho at his peak, Deco pulling strings in midfield, and this teenage Argentine who seemed to get better every single match. The Camp Nou faithful expected dominance. They got chaos instead. Meanwhile, Messi was evolving, 19 years old and already producing moments that defied physics. The goal against Getafe in the Copa del Rey was a carbon copy of Maradona's famous World Cup goal, dribbling from halfway, beating 6 defenders and rounding the goalkeeper. Commentators lost their minds. Barcelona fans wept. Even Diego himself called to congratulate the kid from Rosario. but individual brilliance couldn't save a sinking ship. Barcelona finished the season trophyless. Second in La Liga, knocked out of the Champions League in the round of 16 by Liverpool. For a club that had just won Europe's biggest prize, it felt like a complete collapse. This wasn't a gradual decline, this was freefall. Real Madrid, naturally, loved every second of it. They'd won La Liga with 76 points. Not their best season, but good enough to beat Barcelona by equal points. But mutual result of Madrid was better. The power dynamic was shifting back. The natural order reasserts itself. Madrid was Spain's biggest club, and a couple of good Barcelona seasons didn't change centuries of history, except Messi refused to accept that narrative. The 2007-08 season brought Frank Rijkaard's final year as Barcelona manager. The writing was on the wall from day one. Ronaldinho was finished at the top level, clearly more interested in Barcelona's nightlife than its trophy cabinet. Deco had lost his legs. The team that had conquered Europe 2 years earlier looked old, slow, and completely devoid of the hunger that makes champions. Messi scored 16 goals that season, led the team in nearly every attacking metric, dragged them through matches they had no business winning. But one 20-year-old, no matter how talented, can't compensate for institutional rot. Barcelona finished third, 18 points behind Real Madrid. 18 points. It wasn't even close. For Barcelona fans, watching Madrid lift La Liga while their own team stumbled through mediocrity felt like torture. This was the club that was supposed to represent more than just football. Maycoon club, more than a club. Yet they couldn't even compete with their biggest rival. Someone had to change. And in the summer of 2008, Barcelona made a decision that seemed insane at the time, but would alter the course of football history. They promoted Pep Guardiola to the first team. No elite coaching experience, no resume of trophies from other clubs, just 1 year managing Barcelona's B team in Spain's third division. He was 37 years old, younger than some of the players he'd be coaching. The Spanish media called it desperate. Real Madrid's president, Ramon Calderón, literally laughed in a press conference when asked about Guardiola's appointment. Why would Barcelona, a club in crisis, hire someone with no experience at the highest level? Because Barcelona weren't looking for experience, they were looking for belief. Guardiola had played under Johan Cruyff, absorbed the Dutch master's philosophy of total football, and spent his entire playing career embodying Barcelona's identity, possession, pressing, positional play. He didn't just understand La Masia's principles, he lived them. His first decision shocked everyone. Ronaldinho, the man who'd saved Barcelona, who'd won the Ballon d'Or, who was still beloved by the Camp Nou faithful despite his decline, had to go. Sold to AC Milan for just 21 million euros, a fraction of his peak value. Deco followed him out the door to Chelsea for 8 million. These weren't just transfers, these were executions. Guardiola was burning down the old regime and betting everything on youth. And at the center of it all, Lionel Messi, 21 years old. No longer the shy teenager content with cameo appearances. Now the focal point of an entirely new system built specifically to maximize his genius. But Guardiola didn't just hand Messi the keys and hope for the best. He restructured everything. Brought up Pedro and Busquets from Barcelona's B team, made Xavi and Iniesta the heartbeat of midfield, convinced the board to spend 35 million euros on Dani Alves, the attacking right-back who'd create width while Messi drifted inside. Every tactical decision served one purpose: to create space for Messi to destroy opponents. The 2008-09 season started bad, 1 point for the first 2 matches. Media were destroying Barcelona's move to hire this young coach, but Guardiola told everyone to calm down and give him more time. Meanwhile, Real Madrid were spending 58 million euros on Rafael van der Vaart and Wesley Sneijder. Their squad looked stronger on paper. Their history suggested inevitable success. They weren't ready for what Messi was about to unleash. 23 goals in La Liga, 38 in all competitions. But numbers don't capture what Messi did that season. The way he glided past defenders like they were training cones. The goals from impossible angles. The through balls that split entire defensive lines. The sense that he wasn't just playing football anymore, he was creating art in real time. Barcelona went on a rampage. 13 consecutive wins at one point. 27 wins total from 38 matches. They won La Liga by 9 points over Madrid, utterly dominating Spanish football in a way not seen for decades. But Guardiola and Messi weren't finished. The Champions League became a procession. Barcelona dismantled Bayern Munich 5-1 on aggregate in the quarter-finals. Messi scored both goals in a 2-0 first-leg victory. This wasn't just confidence, this was a player ascending to a level of performance that seemed unreachable. Then came the semi-final, the opponent that every Barcelona fan had been dreaming about since the draw was made, Chelsea. The team that had eliminated them the previous season. The team with Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, and one of the most expensive squads ever assembled. The team managed by Guus Hiddink, who'd built a reputation for tactical masterclasses in knockout football. The first leg at Camp Nou ended 0-0, a defensive stalemate where Chelsea frustrated every Barcelona attack. Messi had chances, rattled the post, forced saves, but couldn't find the breakthrough. The British media declared Chelsea the favourites for the second leg. Stamford Bridge was a fortress. Barcelona's pretty passing meant nothing in the cauldron of a Champions League semi-final in London. The 6th of May 2009, Stamford Bridge. The night, everything changed. Barcelona dominated possession but couldn't score. Chelsea absorbed pressure and looked to counter. Then, in the 9th minute, Essien scored the most beautiful goal in his life. Rocked from 30 yards, the keeper only heard the ball. It was a match with controversial moments in favour of Barcelona, but in the dying minutes of the game, everything changed. Then Andres Iniesta happened. A loose ball fell to him on the edge of the box in the 93rd minute of stoppage time. One touch to control, second touch to shoot. Top corner, goal. Chelsea's players collapsed. Barcelona erupted in celebration. Stamford Bridge fell silent, except for the few thousand travelling Catalans, screaming themselves hoarse in disbelief. Messi had created the chaos that led to the goal. His movement, his passes, his constant pressure had pulled Chelsea's defence out of position just enough for Iniesta to exploit. This was the new reality of Barcelona. Messi didn't need to score to dominate matches. His mere presence warped defences. They were through to the Champions League final, against Manchester United, against Cristiano Ronaldo, who just won the Ballon d'Or and was being hailed as the world's best player, against the reigning European champions who'd beaten Barcelona in the 2007-8 semi-final. The narrative was perfect. Messi versus Ronaldo. Barcelona's philosophy versus Manchester United's power. A referendum on who truly deserved to be called the greatest. May 27, 2009. Rome, Stadio Olimpico. 70,000 fans. Ronaldo started fast, taking shots from distance, trying to impose himself on the match. Manchester United looked confident, controlled, and dangerous. Then the 10th minute arrived. Iniesta's pass into the box, Samuel Eto'o's instinctive finish. 1-0 Barcelona. United's composure was shattered. Messi spent the next 60 minutes tormenting Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic. He was everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. A ghost that United couldn't track, couldn't stop, couldn't even foul without giving Barcelona dangerous free kicks. The 70th minute, Xavi's cross from the right, Messi rising above United's defence, all 5 feet 7 inches of him, to power a header past Edwin van der Sar, 2-0. A header from Messi against the best defence in England. The Camp Nou faithful, watching on giant screens back in Barcelona, lost their minds. For Manchester United fans, that moment crystallised everything. This wasn't just a talented player having a good match. This was a generational talent announcing his arrival as the world's best. Ronaldo, for all his brilliance, had been completely overshadowed. The match finished 2-0. Barcelona were European champions. Messi was 21 years old, with a Champions League title where he'd actually contributed, not just watched from the sidelines like in 2006. Guardiola's first season had delivered the treble, La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League, an unprecedented achievement in Spanish football history. Real Madrid watched all of this unfold with mounting horror. Their greatest rival hadn't just succeeded, they'd created a system that seemed unbeatable, centered around a player who was getting better with every passing match. The kid they'd rejected at 13 had just won the biggest trophy in club football, against Cristiano Ronaldo, on the sport's grandest stage. Something had to be done. Some response had to be made. Madrid couldn't just accept Barcelona's dominance as the new normal. They were Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world, the one with 9 European Cups, the one that had signed Alfredo Di Stefano out from under Barcelona's nose and dominated for decades. So they did what Real Madrid always does when faced with a threat. They went shopping. Florentino Perez returned as president in June 2009, promising to restore Madrid's supremacy through spectacular signings. First up, Kaká from AC Milan for €65 million, then the world record fee. A statement of intent, a declaration that Madrid wouldn't bow to Barcelona's success. But Perez wasn't done, not even close, because if Barcelona had Messi, Madrid needed their own Galactico to match him. Someone who could compete for individual honours, someone who could shift the narrative back to the capital. They signed Cristiano Ronaldo from Manchester United for €94 million, the most expensive transfer in history. The reigning Ballon d'Or winner, the player who just lost to Messi in the Champions League final, but still possessed a resume of individual achievements that rivaled anyone in football. The stage was set, Messi versus Ronaldo, Barcelona versus Madrid. Two players at the peak of their powers, two clubs with century-old hatred, two incompatible philosophies of how football should be played. What came next would be the greatest individual rivalry the sport has ever witnessed, and a golden era that would elevate both men beyond anything previously thought possible. For Barcelona fans, confidence had never been higher. They had the system, they had the coach, they had Messi entering his prime. Madrid could spend all the money in the world, it wouldn't matter against tactical superiority and homegrown genius. They had no idea what Ronaldo was about to bring to El Clasico, no idea how fierce this rivalry would become, no idea that the next decade would produce football so extraordinary, so intense, so utterly dominant from both sides, that every other era would pale in comparison. The war was just beginning, and Messi stood at the center of it all, ready to prove that Barcelona's faith in him hadn't just been justified, it had been the greatest gamble in football history. Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at Real Madrid in the summer of 2009 with a mission. Not just to score goals or win trophies. Anyone could do that at the world's biggest club. No, his mission was singular, personal, almost obsessive. Destroy Lionel Messi's claim to being the world's best player. Think about what that meant. Ronaldo had just won the Ballon d'Or. He'd scored 42 goals for Manchester United. He'd won 3 Premier League titles and a Champions League. By any objective measure, he was already one of the greatest players of his generation. But standing in a packed Bernabeu for his presentation, with 80,000 fans chanting his name, all he could think about was the Argentine who'd humiliated him in Rome 2 months earlier. This wasn't professional rivalry, this was personal, and it would define both men for the next decade. The 2009-10 season started with Barcelona as overwhelming favourites for everything. They'd won the treble, they had Guardiola's system running like clockwork, they had Messi, who at 22 years old was somehow still improving. The smart money said Madrid's expensive signings wouldn't matter, you can't buy chemistry, and you certainly can't buy what Barcelona had built over years of tactical refinement. Real Madrid started poorly, struggled to integrate Ronaldo, Kaká, Karim Benzema, and Xabi Alonso into a cohesive unit. Manuel Pellegrini, their manager, looked overwhelmed by the pressure of coaching the sport's most demanding club. By November, Madrid was already 9 points behind Barcelona in La Liga. Barcelona, meanwhile, were destroying everyone. But here's where the narrative gets interesting, because while Messi was producing football perfection, Ronaldo was learning, adapting, evolving from a flashy winger into a complete goal-scoring machine. He studied Madrid's system, figured out where he could exploit space, and started making runs that terrified defenders. 26 goals in his first La Liga season. Not Messi's numbers, Messi had 34, but enough to show he belonged in the conversation. The first true El Clasico of the Messi-Ronaldo era came on November 29, 2009, Camp Nou. Barcelona undefeated. Real Madrid is desperate to close the gap. 98,000 fans packed into the stadium. Millions more are watching worldwide. This wasn't just a football match. This was a gladiatorial contest between two players who'd spent the previous months being compared in every possible metric. Barcelona won 1-0. Zlatan Ibrahimovic scored, but the scoreline didn't tell the real story. Messi had been everywhere, dropping deep to collect the ball, dribbling past 3 defenders at a time, creating chances that should have put the match out of reach. Ronaldo had precisely 1 shot on target all match, 1. He looked isolated, frustrated, completely nullified by Barcelona's suffocating possession. For Barcelona fans, this confirmed everything they believed. Messi was magic, Ronaldo was just marketing. No amount of money could buy what Barcelona had: an identity, a philosophy, a player who embodied everything the club stood for. Real Madrid fans left the Camp Nou in silence, 9 points behind, humiliated at their rival's home. Watching Ronaldo, their €94 million saviour, get completely shut down. The British press started asking if Madrid had made a mistake, if Ronaldo could handle the pressure of Spain's brutal rivalry. They should have paid attention to how Ronaldo reacted, because he didn't sulk, didn't make excuses, didn't blame teammates or tactics. He returned to training and became obsessed with one thing: setting goals. More goals. Goals from every position. Goals that couldn't be stopped regardless of how many defenders Barcelona put on him. The second Clásico of that season, the return fixture at the Bernabeu in April 2010, told a different story. Ronaldo didn't score, but his defensive work rate, his pressing, his willingness to sacrifice individual glory for team structure showed something important. He was learning. Barcelona still won La Liga that season. 99 points a record. Messi finished with 47 goals in all competitions. The Ballon d'Or seemed like a formality, except it wasn't. December 2010. The announcement came from France Football magazine. The Ballon d'Or winner was Lionel Messi, his second at 23 years old, the youngest player to win it twice. For the second consecutive year, he'd watched Messi lift the trophy that obsessed him. If you were a Real Madrid fan watching that ceremony, the frustration must have been unbearable. Your club had spent a combined €250 million on new players. You had Ronaldo, genuinely one of the world's best. Yet Barcelona's homegrown genius kept winning everything that mattered. But 2010 marked a turning point, not because Madrid suddenly figured out how to beat Barcelona tactically, because they hired a manager who understood that beating Messi required more than just talent. It required ruthlessness. José Mourinho, fresh from winning the Champions League with Inter Milan, having just eliminated Barcelona in the semi-final with one of the most defensive masterclasses in modern football history. President Florentino Perez didn't hire Mourinho to play beautiful football. He hired him to win, at any cost, by any means necessary. Mourinho's first El Clásico as Madrid manager came in November 2010 at the Camp Nou. He set Madrid up with a low defensive block, instructed Ronaldo to track back, and basically dared Barcelona to break them down. The match finished 5-0 to Barcelona, the worst El Clásico defeat in Madrid's history. Messi didn't even score. Xavi, Pedro, David Villa, and Jeffren did the damage, but his performance orchestrating Barcelona's attack was masterful. Mourinho stood on the touchline, watched his team get destroyed, and smiled, not because he enjoyed losing, because he'd learned exactly what he needed to know. Barcelona's system relied on space. Create enough chaos, disrupt their passing rhythm, target their weaknesses, and even Messi becomes mortal. The 5-0 defeat looked like a disaster. It was actually reconnaissance, because what came next was psychological warfare on a scale Spanish football had never witnessed. Mourinho started planting seeds in press conferences, suggesting referees favoured Barcelona, implying UEFA protected them, creating an us versus them mentality that turned every Clásico into a battle beyond football. And Ronaldo absorbed all of it and transformed into something terrifying. The 2010-11 season saw him score 40 La Liga goals, 6 more than Messi, 40 goals in 34 matches. He'd become a goal-scoring machine, eliminating the fancy stepovers and tricks in favour of brutal efficiency. First touch, second touch, goal, over and over again. But Barcelona still won La Liga and the Champions League again. Messi scored 53 goals that season. 53 in all competitions, numbers that seemed computer-generated rather than human. December 2011, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Messi won again, his third consecutive award, 24 years old, already being discussed in the same breath as Pelé and Maradona. Ronaldo finished second, again, third consecutive year as runner-up. The cameras caught his reaction, a forced smile that barely concealed seething frustration. For Barcelona fans, this was complete validation. Not just winning, dominating. Not just having the best player having a player so far ahead of everyone else that comparison seemed insulting. Messi wasn't just better than Ronaldo, he was transcendent. But football is cyclical. Success breeds complacency. Dominance invites challenge. And Mourinho's Madrid were learning, adapting, preparing for a psychological assault that would test Barcelona's mental fortitude as much as their tactical superiority. The 2011-12 season became a war. 4 Clásicos in 18 days. April 16th, 20th, 27th, and May 3rd. La Liga, Copa del Rey, final. Champions League semi-final. Every trophy both clubs cared about came down to direct confrontation. Barcelona versus Madrid, Messi versus Ronaldo. 4 matches that would determine everything. First match, April 16th, 2011, at the Bernabeu, La Liga. Madrid won 1-1. Wait, another draw counting as a win? Barcelona, the team that had scored 5 at the Camp Nou 6 months earlier, barely threatened Madrid's goal. Mourinho's defensive tactics were working. Madrid were closing the gap. Second match, April 20th, Copa del Rey final. Ronaldo scored the winning goal in extra time. A header from an Angel Di Maria cross. Simple, effective. Madrid's first trophy in 3 years. For Real Madrid fans, that Copa del Rey felt like liberation. 3 years of Barcelona's dominance. 3 years of being told Ronaldo couldn't compete with Messi. 1 goal, 1 trophy, 1 step toward reclaiming Spanish football. Third match, April 27th, Champions League semi-final, first leg at the Bernabeu. Barcelona won 2-0. Messi scored both goals. The second was particularly devastating, receiving the ball on the edge of the box, cutting inside past 3 defenders, slotting past Iker Casillas with his weaker right foot. Mourinho's defensive master plan crumbled. Madrid's stadium fell silent, except for the travelling Barcelona fans singing Messi's name. Fourth match, May 3rd, Champions League semi-final second leg at Camp Nou. Madrid needed 3 goals to advance. They got 1. Barcelona advanced 3-1 on aggregate. Messi didn't score in the second leg, didn't need to. His first leg performance had already killed the tie. Madrid were eliminated. Barcelona were through to another Champions League final. Think about what those 4 matches meant. Madrid had won 1, Barcelona 2, and 1 drawn. On paper, competitive. In reality, Barcelona had advanced in the competition that mattered most and reasserted their dominance when it counted. But Mourinho had learned something crucial. His defensive tactics could frustrate Barcelona. Ronaldo could match Messi's goal output. What Madrid lacked wasn't talent or tactics, it was consistency and mental strength in the biggest moments. Fix that, and the rivalry would shift. The 2011-12 La Liga season became Mourinho's masterpiece. Madrid finished with 100 points. 100. They won the league by 9 points over Barcelona. Ronaldo scored 46 La Liga goals, breaking a record that had stood for decades. The goal against Barcelona at the Camp Nou in April 2012, a counter-attacking move where he sprinted 60 yards, received a pass from Mesut Ozil and slotted past Victor Valdez, was particularly symbolic. Speed, power, efficiency, everything Mourinho had built his system around. But losing La Liga to Madrid, seeing Ronaldo break goal-scoring records, watching their dominance get challenged for the first time in years, it stung. December 2012 Ballon d'Or ceremony, the 4th consecutive year of Messi versus Ronaldo. Everyone expected Messi to win his 4th straight award, and he did. 91 goals in the calendar year. 2012, 91, a record that may never be broken. Messi had scored in practically every match Barcelona played. Hat-tricks, pokers, braces, numbers so absurd they seemed like typos. Ronaldo finished second, 4th consecutive year. By now, the pattern was clear. Ronaldo could score goals, win La Liga, and match Messi statistically. But when it came to the Ballon d'Or, to individual recognition, to being called the absolute best, Messi always won. For Real Madrid fans, this was maddening. Ronaldo had just delivered a 100-point La Liga season and 46 league goals. What more could he possibly do? The answer, according to the Ballon d'Or voters, was Lionel Messi. No amount of goals or trophies seemed to matter if Barcelona's number 10 was in the conversation. But here's what Barcelona fans celebrating that 4th Ballon d'Or didn't realize. Ronaldo's obsession with beating Messi had transformed him into a more complete player than anyone anticipated. He'd added defensive work rate, tactical intelligence, and leadership qualities that made him indispensable to Madrid's system. He wasn't just trying to outscore Messi anymore. He was trying to build a legacy that would eventually surpass him. The 2012-13 season saw Barcelona win La Liga. Messi scored 46 league goals, tying Ronaldo's record from the previous season. Back and forth, punch and counterpunch. Every record one sets, the other matches. Every achievement by Barcelona, Madrid responded with their own the following season. But Barcelona's dominance was starting to show cracks. Guardiola had left after the 2011-12 season, exhausted by the mental toll of managing football's most demanding club. Tito Villanova took over and delivered La Liga, but the Champions League saw Barcelona humiliated by Bayern Munich in the semi-final, 7-0 on aggregate, 4 goals in Munich, 3 at Camp Nou. The system that had seemed invincible suddenly looked outdated, predictable, vulnerable. Meanwhile, Madrid was building something different under Mourinho, not as aesthetically pleasing as Barcelona's tiki-taka, but effective. Madrid were competing for every trophy. The psychological edge Barcelona had held for years was disappearing. Then came the moment that changed everything. December 2013, Ballon d'Or ceremony. For the first time since 2008, Cristiano Ronaldo's name was called as the winner. He'd scored 69 goals in 2013, led Madrid to the Copa del Rey, delivered performances in big matches that couldn't be ignored. After 4 years of finishing second to Messi, he'd finally broken through. The relief on Ronaldo's face when his name was announced said everything. This wasn't just an individual award. This was validation that his obsessive pursuit of Messi had been worth it. That his transformation from flashy winger to goal-scoring machine had elevated him to the very peak of football. That he could compete with and beat the player everyone said was untouchable. For Real Madrid fans, Ronaldo's Ballon d'Or felt like vindication. 4 years of being told Messi was better. 4 years of watching Barcelona dominate. Finally, their Galactico had claimed the sport's most prestigious individual honor. The rivalry was truly competitive now, not just in goals or trophies, but in recognition. For Barcelona fans, concern. Not panic, not yet, but concern. Messi had won 4 straight Ballon d'Ors by being undeniably better than everyone else. Now Ronaldo had won 2. The gap was closing. And with Barcelona's system starting to show age, with Madrid's hunger growing, the next few years wouldn't be the coronation Barcelona fans expected. There would be a war, an arms race between 2 players pushing each other to heights nobody thought possible. A rivalry that would produce goal-scoring records, Champions League performances, and individual moments of such brilliance that they'd define an entire generation's understanding of football excellence. And at the center of it all was Lionel Messi, the kid from Rosario who'd needed hormone injections just to compete, now locked in the greatest individual rivalry in sports history. Every goal Ronaldo scored demanded a response. Every trophy Madrid won required Barcelona to match it. The pressure was immense. The expectations are impossible, but pressure had never stopped Messi before. And what came next would prove that even when the rivalry seemed equal, even when Ronaldo's brilliance matched his own, Messi still had another level to reach. The question was whether his body could handle what his mind demanded, because hidden beneath all the goals and glory, a problem was developing, one that would threaten everything Messi and Barcelona had built. The 2013-14 season was supposed to be Barcelona's response. Ronaldo had won the Ballon d'Or. Real Madrid were resurgent. The gap that Barcelona had once dominated was now competitive, maybe even tilting toward Madrid. For a club built on the philosophy that they weren't just better but fundamentally different from Real Madrid, this was unacceptable. Tata Martino took over as Barcelona's manager. His mandate was simple: restore Barcelona's dominance, make Messi untouchable again, prove that Ronaldo's Ballon d'Or was an anomaly, not a changing of the guard. The season started well enough. Messi was scoring 28 La Liga goals by March. Not his peak numbers, but elite by any other standard. Barcelona sat atop the league table. Everything looked normal from the outside, but something was wrong. Messi was vomiting during matches, not once or twice regularly. He'd sprint for 90 minutes, then bend over on the pitch, physically sick from the exertion. Sports science staff ran tests, found nothing conclusive. Messi kept playing because that's what Messi did. You played through discomfort. You played through pain. You played because Barcelona needed you. Except this wasn't just discomfort. This was his body sending warning signals that something fundamental was breaking down. Years of carrying Barcelona's attack. Years of being kicked, fouled, targeted by defenders who knew stopping Messi meant stopping Barcelona. Years of playing through minor injuries because sitting out meant letting Real Madrid gain ground. All of it was accumulating. The vomiting got worse. Matches against Athletic Bilbao, Real Sociedad, Ajax, Messi would finish games physically drained in ways that looked alarming. Sports journalists started asking questions. Barcelona's medical staff provided vague answers about dietary adjustments and normal physical responses to high-intensity performance. Nothing to worry about. But there was something to worry about, and it was about to explode in the worst possible moment. The 23rd of March 2014, El Clásico en el Bernabéu. Real Madrid was leading La Liga by 3 points. The entire season's momentum hangs in the balance for 90 minutes. Ronaldo had already scored 30 La Liga goals. Messi had 28. The individual battle mirrored the team competition, impossibly tight, neither player willing to concede an inch. The match was brutal, physical, tactical fouls, aggressive pressing, and referees struggling to maintain control. Both teams understood what was at stake. This wasn't just 3 points, it was psychological dominance heading into the season's final stretch. Messi was once again the center of attention. 3 goals, 1 assist. He was the one leading Barcelona's attack. Real Madrid lost 3-4. For Real Madrid fans, this felt like another humiliation. For Barcelona fans, sensation. Watching Madrid's new signings struggle when it mattered. Watching the gap close, not because Madrid had declined, but because Barcelona had gotten better. That's what made it terrifying. Barcelona was still good, maybe even great. Madrid were just matching them everywhere it counted. The season collapsed after that Clásico. Barcelona drew against Getafe, lost to Granada, and watched helplessly as Atletico Madrid surged past them in the league table. Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone's defensively brilliant underdog team, also overtook Barcelona. By the final matchday, Barcelona finished second. Atletico Madrid won La Liga, 90 points. Ronaldo finished with 31 league goals, but more importantly, Madrid won the Champions League, the Decima, their 10th European Cup, the trophy that had obsessed the club since 2002. 12 years of failure, disappointment, near misses. All was erased in Lisbon when Sergio Ramos scored a 93rd minute equaliser against Atletico Madrid, forcing extra time. Madrid won 4-1. Ronaldo scored the final goal from the penalty spot, then ripped off his shirt and flexed for the cameras. Think about the symbolism. Ronaldo winning the Champions League in the same season he'd beaten Messi for the Ballon d'Or, scoring in the final, celebrating shirtless, while Messi watched from home, eliminated in the quarter-finals by Atletico Madrid. The narrative was brutal. When it mattered most, Ronaldo delivered. Messi didn't. Barcelona's season ended with 0 major trophies. 0. The first time since 2007 to 0-8 they'd finished a season without La Liga, Copa del Rey, or Champions League. Messi's 28 league goals seemed irrelevant compared to Madrid's triumph. The vomiting, the physical struggles, the inability to dominate matches the way he had in previous years. All of it pointed to a player and a team in decline. December 2014, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Ronaldo won his 2nd consecutive award, 3rd overall. 52 goals in 2014. Champions League glory, La Liga title. The voters weren't even close. Ronaldo received 37.66% of the vote. Messi got 15.76%. For the 3rd consecutive year, Ronaldo had either won or finished second. But this time the gap was massive, undeniable. For Real Madrid fans, this was complete vindication. Not just competitive with Barcelona, better than Barcelona. Ronaldo hadn't just caught Messi, he'd surpassed him. 3 Ballon d'Ors to Messi's 4, but the momentum was entirely with Madrid. The future belonged to Ronaldo, except that's not how rivalries work, because while Madrid celebrated, Barcelona were rebuilding. Not just the team, Messi himself. Sports scientists finally diagnosed what was causing the vomiting. Dietary issues, combined with muscle fatigue from years of playing without proper physical preparation protocols. Messi changed everything. Hired an Italian nutritionist named Giuliano Posa, eliminated refined sugars, processed foods, and red meat. Started a strict regimen focused on recovery and injury prevention. The transformation was immediate. The 2014-15 season started with Barcelona looking fresh and convinced right from the start, breaking down defensive teams, looking tactically impressive under Martino's replacement, Luis Enrique. Real Madrid, meanwhile, continued to win. 22 consecutive victories across all competitions. Ronaldo is scoring in nearly every match. The Club World Cup in December 2014, Madrid won it, and everything clicked. The treble looked possible, maybe even likely. January 2015, transfer window. Barcelona signed Luis Suarez from Liverpool for €75 million. Combined with Neymar, who'd arrived the previous season for €57 million, Barcelona now had a front three worth over €200 million in transfer fees alone. MSN, Messi, Suarez, Neymar. On paper, the most expensive and talented attacking trio ever assembled. But chemistry isn't guaranteed by price tags. Suarez needed time to integrate. Neymar was still adapting to European football's demands. Messi was still recovering from his physical struggles. The first few months of MSN looked disjointed, inefficient, and almost wasteful. Barcelona drew matches they should have won, lost to Real Sociedad 1-0 in January, looked vulnerable every time opponents pressed high. Real Madrid extended their lead at the top of La Liga, 4 points, then 5. By February, the narrative was clear. Madrid were going to win another league title. Barcelona's expensive attacking trio wasn't working. Messi's decline was real. The golden era was over. Then something clicked. Maybe it was Messi's improved fitness from his dietary changes. Maybe it was Suarez finally understanding Barcelona's system. Maybe it was Luis Enrique's tactical adjustments. Whatever the reason, MSN suddenly became unstoppable. March 2015, Barcelona destroyed Manchester City 3-1 on aggregate in the Champions League round of 16. Messi didn't score. Then they beat Paris Saint-Germain 5-1 on aggregate in the quarter-finals. Messi didn't score again. Suarez scored his first Champions League goals for Barcelona. Neymar was creating chances at a rate that overwhelmed defenses. The chemistry that had seemed impossible in January was now terrifying opposing teams. Real Madrid eliminated by Juventus in the Champions League semi-finals, 2-3 on aggregate. Ronaldo scored both of Madrid's goals, but it wasn't enough. The Decima defense ended in disappointment. Suddenly, the team that had looked invincible in January looked vulnerable. La Liga came down to the final matches. Barcelona had caught Madrid in the standings through a relentless run of victories. Real Madrid needed to win their remaining fixtures and hope Barcelona dropped points. They didn't. Barcelona won every match, finished with 94 points. Real Madrid finished second with 92, 2 points. The margin between triumph and failure. Copa del Rey final. Barcelona beat Athletic Bilbao 3-1. Messi scored twice and Neymar won. The treble was still alive heading into the Champions League final against Juventus in Berlin. June 6, 2015, Olympia Stadion. Barcelona versus Juventus. The treble on the line. Messi's chance to silence everyone who'd said his decline was permanent. MSN's chance to prove they were more than just expensive names. Barcelona won 3-1. Rakitic scored in the 4th minute. Suarez scored in the 68th. Neymar scored in the 97th. Messi didn't score, but his performance, orchestrating Barcelona's attack, was masterful. Dropping deep to collect the ball, drawing defenders out of position, creating space for Suarez and Neymar. The complete playmaker role he'd refined over years of adapting his game. The treble, again. Barcelona had won La Liga, Copa del Rey, and Champions League in the same season for the second time in 6 years. Only club in history to achieve it twice. Messi lifted the Champions League trophy, kissed it, and smiled at the cameras with an expression that said everything. I'm not done yet. For Barcelona fans, this was redemption. The vomiting, the physical struggles, the Ballon d'Or losses to Ronaldo, all of it was just temporary adversity before inevitable triumph. Messi had adapted, overcome, and delivered when it mattered most. The rivalry wasn't tilting toward Madrid, it was still Barcelona's. Real Madrid won nothing that season, 0 major trophies. Ronaldo's 61 goals across all competitions seemed hollow compared to Barcelona's treble. The narrative had reversed completely from the previous year. Suddenly, Messi's supporting cast was better. Barcelona's system was superior. Ronaldo was just a goalscorer in a team that couldn't win when it mattered. December 2015, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Everyone knew what was coming. Messi won his 5th, 28 years old, more individual awards than any player in history. The voting wasn't close, 41.3% to Ronaldo's 27.7%, 6%. Barcelona's treble had overwhelmed Madrid's trophyless season. But here's what made this Ballon d'Or different from Messi's previous 4. It came after adversity, after physical struggles that threatened his career. After watching Ronaldo win 2 consecutive awards and Real Madrid claim the Decima, after being written off as declining, past his peak, and unable to compete with Ronaldo's relentless goal scoring, Messi responded by winning the treble, by adapting his game, by proving that even when his body betrayed him, his mind could find another way to dominate. The gap had widened again. For Real Madrid fans watching that ceremony, the frustration must have been overwhelming. Your team had won the Decima, broken a 12-year curse, and delivered the trophy that mattered most. Ronaldo had scored crucial goals, won Ballon d'Ors, and matched Messi statistically. Yet Barcelona responded with a treble and Messi's 5th individual award. Every time Madrid seemed to gain the edge, Messi found a way to reclaim it. The rivalry had become more than just competitive. It had become existential. 2 players pushing each other to heights that redefined what was possible in football. Every achievement by one demanded an even greater response from the other, and neither seemed capable of stopping. But what neither Messi nor Ronaldo knew was that their rivalry was about to enter its most intense, most dramatic, most trophy-laden phase. Yet because the next few years wouldn't just be about individual awards or single trophies, they would be about legacy, about who would be remembered as the greatest of their generation, about whether Messi's 5 Ballon d'Ors and Barcelona's system or Ronaldo's Champions League dominance and individual brilliance would define an era. The war was beginning. The 2015-16 season started with Barcelona as overwhelming favourites for everything. They'd won the treble. MSN had scored 122 goals combined the previous season. Messi had his 5th Ballon d'Or. The system was working. The chemistry was perfect. Why wouldn't they repeat? Real Madrid, meanwhile, were in transition. Carlo Ancelotti had been sacked despite winning the Decima, the price of finishing trophyless the following season. Rafa Benitez took over as manager, bringing defensive tactics that clashed with Madrid's Galactico culture. The dressing room was fractured. Ronaldo looked frustrated. The team looked directionless. By December 2015, Barcelona had extended their lead at the top of La Liga to 6 points. Real Madrid was struggling to break down defensive teams. Benitez's conservative approach wasn't working. The Bernabeu crowd booed their own team. Florentino Perez faced pressure to make a change before the season collapsed completely. Barcelona looked unstoppable. Messi, Suarez, and Neymar were destroying teams with a fluidity that made defending seem pointless. The 4-0 victory over Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in November, Suarez scoring twice, Neymar adding another, was particularly humiliating for Madrid. Ronaldo played 90 minutes without a single shot on target. The gap between the two clubs looked insurmountable. Then Perez made a move that changed everything. The 4th of January 2016, Rafa Benitez was sacked. His replacement, Zinedine Zidane, club legend. 3-time Champions League winner as a player, 0 managerial experience at the top level, a gamble that looked desperate. Barcelona fans laughed. Real Madrid was hiring a manager with no credentials beyond his playing career. This was surrender disguised as nostalgia. The league was over. Barcelona would cruise to another title, while Madrid's chaotic decision-making continued. Except Zidane understood something fundamental about managing Real Madrid. You don't need complicated tactics when you have the world's best players. You need clarity, confidence, freedom to express their talent. He simplified Madrid's system, gave Ronaldo license to focus purely on attacking, and trusted his squad to figure out the details. Real Madrid went on a run. 12 consecutive victories across all competitions. Ronaldo started scoring at a rate that seemed superhuman even by his standards. 35 La Liga goals by season's end, 16 Champions League goals, hat-tricks against Wolfsburg in the quarter-finals, turning around a 2-0 deficit from the first leg, the decisive penalty in the final shootout against Atletico Madrid in Milan. May 28, 2016, Giuseppe Meazza. Real Madrid won their 11th Champions League, La Undecima. 2 years after the Decima, they'd done it again. Ronaldo stood shirtless at the center circle, flexing for cameras, screaming at the Madrid fans who'd traveled to Milan. This wasn't just a celebration, this was a statement. I'm still here, still the best, still winning when it matters most. Barcelona, eliminated by Atletico Madrid in the quarter-finals. MSN's combined 131 goals that season didn't matter if they couldn't get past Simeone's defensive masterclass. La Liga title, yes, Barcelona won that with 91 points, but the Champions League was what separated great teams from legendary ones, and Madrid had it, Barcelona didn't. For Real Madrid fans, this Champions League felt like proof that their approach was superior. Barcelona needed perfect conditions, perfect tactics, and perfect chemistry to win. Madrid just needed Ronaldo, Zidane's trust, and the belief that individual brilliance could overcome any obstacle. December 2016, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Ronaldo won his 4th, tied with Messi at the top of the all-time list. The voting margin was significant. He received 745 points to Messi's 316. Champions League glory had overwhelmed Barcelona's La Liga title. The narrative was shifting again. Messi dominated domestically. Ronaldo owned Europe. But what made this Ballon d'Or particularly significant was what happened 6 days later. FIFA Club World Cup final in Yokohama, Japan. Real Madrid versus Kashima Antlers. Madrid won 4-2 in extra time. Ronaldo scored a hat-trick. Immediately after the match, he was awarded the Ballon d'Or trophy in a ceremony on the pitch. Standing in Japan, having just won another trophy, receiving the sport's most prestigious individual award, the symbolism was perfect for Madrid's narrative. For Barcelona fans watching from home, this was infuriating. Barcelona had won the domestic double, yet Ronaldo's Champions League performances had overshadowed everything Barcelona achieved. The criteria for greatness had shifted from consistency to moments, from dominance to drama. The 2016-17 season became an arms race. Barcelona and Real Madrid weren't just competing for trophies, they were competing for legacy. Every record one broke, the other needed to match. Every achievement had to be outdone. Real Madrid dominated the Champions League again. Ronaldo scored 10 goals in the knockout rounds alone. Against Bayern Munich in the quarter-finals, 2 goals over 2 legs. Against Atletico Madrid in the semi-finals, hat-trick at the Bernabeu in the first leg. Against Juventus in the final 2 goals. June 3rd, 2017, Cardiff. Real Madrid won their 12th Champions League. Back-to-back titles. First team to defend the Champions League in its current format. Ronaldo lifted the trophy, kissed it, and looked directly at the cameras with an expression that said, "This is my competition now." Barcelona won La Liga that season, 90 points. Messi scored 37 league goals. Copa del Rey champions too, the domestic double again. But none of it mattered compared to Madrid's Champions League dominance. Eliminated in the quarter-finals by Juventus, Barcelona watched from home as their rivals achieved something unprecedented. Think about what this meant for the rivalry. Barcelona had won 2 consecutive La Liga titles, Copa del Rey in both years. Domestic dominance that any other club would celebrate as a golden era. But because Real Madrid kept winning the Champions League, the trophy that defined legacies, Barcelona's achievements felt diminished. For Messi, this was particularly frustrating. He was involved in 74 goals across the 2016-17 season. 74. Numbers that would have won Ballon d'Ors in any other era. But Ronaldo's Champions League performances made those goals seem less important. European glory trumped domestic consistency. December 2017, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Ronaldo won his 5th, tied with Messi again, 5 awards each. But the momentum was entirely with Ronaldo. 2 consecutive Champions Leagues, 4 Ballon d'Ors in 5 years. The voting wasn't even close this time. 946 points to Messi's 670. The speech Ronaldo gave after winning said everything about where the rivalry stood. He thanked his teammates, his family, and Real Madrid's fans. Then he looked at the camera and said he wasn't done yet. More trophies to win, more records to break, more Ballon d'Ors to claim. For Barcelona fans, watching Ronaldo tie Messi's record of 5 Ballon d'Ors was painful. Your player had won his 5th after overcoming physical adversity, leading a treble-winning team, proving his genius went beyond goal-scoring. Ronaldo had won his 5th by being part of a back-to-back Champions League winning machine. Different paths to the same destination. But here's where the story gets even more dramatic, because while everyone debated whether Messi or Ronaldo was greater, neither man was satisfied with 5 Ballon d'Ors. Both wanted 6. Both wanted to pull ahead definitively. Both wanted to end the debate once and for all. The 2017-18 season would decide it. Real Madrid is chasing an unprecedented 3rd consecutive Champions League. Barcelona is desperate to reclaim European dominance and prove that its domestic superiority means something. Messi versus Ronaldo, 5 Ballon d'Ors each. 30 years old versus 32. Peak years starting to slip away, Real Madrid made history that season. 3rd consecutive Champions League, 13th overall. Ronaldo scored 15 Champions League goals, a joint record at the time, against Paris Saint-Germain in the round of 16. Against Juventus in the quarter-finals, another bicycle kick so perfect that even his former Manchester United teammates watching in the stadium gave him a standing ovation. The final in Kiev against Liverpool, Bale's overhead kick stole the spotlight, but Ronaldo had carried Madrid through every previous round. 3 consecutive Champions Leagues, 4 in 5 years. The competition was his. Nobody in history had dominated Europe like this. Barcelona, eliminated by Roma in the Champions League quarter-finals, 4-1 defeat at the Stadio Olimpico after winning the first leg 4-1 at Camp Nou. The collapse was complete, embarrassing, inexcusable. La Liga went to Barcelona, 93 points, undefeated, 43 matches without a loss. Copa del Rey champions, domestic double again. Messi scored 45 goals across all competitions, incredible by any standard, except the one that mattered, Champions League glory. The 26th of May, 2018, Kiev, Real Madrid lifted their 13th European Cup. Ronaldo stood on the pitch after the match and told reporters he was leaving. Not leaving the club, though he'd hinted at it before, but leaving for vacation. The comment seemed innocent until July 10, when Juventus announced they'd signed Cristiano Ronaldo for €100 million. The Messi-Ronaldo rivalry in Spain was over. 9 years of competing directly, 9 years of pushing each other to unprecedented heights, 9 years that had produced 10 Ballon d'Ors, 8 Champions Leagues, 6 La Liga titles, and countless individual records. Ronaldo left Real Madrid, having won 4 Champions Leagues in 5 years. Left as Madrid's all-time leading scorer with 450 goals. Left having proven he could dominate Europe in ways even Messi couldn't. For Barcelona fans, Ronaldo's departure felt like both relief and regret. Relief that the rivalry's intensity would decrease. Regret that Messi hadn't definitively proven his superiority while they were both in Spain. The head-to-head Clásico record slightly favoured Barcelona, but the Champions League dominance belonged entirely to Ronaldo. December 2018, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Luka Modric won. Not Messi, not Ronaldo. For the first time since 2007, someone else claimed the award. Ronaldo finished second, Messi fifth. The decade of dominance had been interrupted, but the rivalry wasn't over. Because what neither player knew in December 2018 was that Messi would have one more chance to pull ahead, one more opportunity to claim a 6th Ballon d'Or and prove that even without Ronaldo in Spain, even without the direct competition, he was still the world's best player. And the stage for that final triumph was about to be set in the most unlikely, most dramatic way possible. The 2018-19 season was supposed to be Messi's coronation. Ronaldo had left Spain. The rivalry that had defined a decade was geographically over. Finally, Messi could play without the constant comparisons, without every goal being measured against what Ronaldo had scored the previous weekend. Finally, he could just be Lionel Messi, the best player in the world, without asterisks or qualifications. Barcelona started the season with a new manager. Ernesto Valverde had survived the Roma disaster somehow, kept his job despite presiding over one of the most humiliating Champions League exits in the club's history. His mandate was clear: win the Champions League. La Liga titles were expected, domestic doubles were routine. But European glory, that's what separated Barcelona's current team from their legendary predecessors. Messi seemed determined to deliver it himself. The goals came in torrents. Hat-trick against PSV in the Champions League group stage. 2 goals against Tottenham at Wembley. 1 a curling shot from outside the box that left Hugo Lloris frozen. Brace against Lyon in the round of 16. Every match, Messi was either scoring or creating chances that should have been scored. Real Madrid, meanwhile, were collapsing. Ronaldo's departure had left a void nobody could fill. Julen Lopetegui was sacked after 5 months. Santiago Solari took over and lasted barely longer. The team that had won 3 consecutive Champions Leagues couldn't beat anyone, eliminated from Copa del Rey by Barcelona. Eliminated from the Champions League by Ajax in the round of 16, a humiliation that shocked European football. Finished third in La Liga with 68 points, 19 behind Barcelona. For Barcelona fans, this felt like vindication. See, Ronaldo needed Real Madrid more than Madrid needed him. Meanwhile, Messi was carrying Barcelona to another domestic double and looked unstoppable in the Champions League. April 10th, 2019. Champions League quarter-final first leg. Barcelona versus Manchester United at Old Trafford. Barcelona won and Messi didn't score. Luke Shaw, United's left-back, stood in stunned silence as Messi celebrated. After the match, Shaw told reporters it was the best individual performance he'd ever witnessed. "I knew he was good," Shaw said, "but that was a different level." The second leg at Camp Nou was a formality. Barcelona won 3-0. Messi scored 2 more, bringing his Champions League tally for the season to 10 goals. The semi-finals awaited. Liverpool at Camp Nou, then Anfield for the return leg. The 1st of May, 2019, Camp Nou, Barcelona versus Liverpool. This was supposed to be Messi's coronation match, the performance that would silence any remaining doubts about his Champions League credentials. Liverpool were good, exceptional. Even but Barcelona at home with Messi in this form seemed insurmountable. Barcelona won 3-0. Messi scored twice. The second goal was supernatural. A free kick from 28 yards, curled over the wall, dipping at the last second to nestle in the top corner, while Liverpool's goalkeeper Alisson stood frozen. The Camp Nou erupted. Commentators scrambled for superlatives. Messi jogged back to the halfway line with that familiar expression, satisfaction mixed with quiet confidence. 3-0. Away goals didn't even matter. Barcelona would need to lose by 4 goals at Anfield to be eliminated. 4 goals against this Barcelona defense, this Barcelona midfield, this version of Lionel Messi. Impossible. Except it wasn't impossible. May 7th, 2019, Anfield, Liverpool 4-0, Barcelona. Divock Origi scored in the 7th minute. Jorginho Wijnaldum scored twice in the 54th and 56th minutes. Origi, again in the 79th from a corner taken quickly, while Barcelona's defense stood motionless, confused, defeated. The collapse was complete, total. Barcelona's players sat on the Anfield pitch afterward in shock. Messi stared at the ground, hands on his knees, trying to process what had just happened. This wasn't just a loss, this was Rome again. This was Barcelona, proving that no lead was safe, no advantage insurmountable when the pressure intensified in the Champions League. For Barcelona fans, this was the nightmare scenario. Your team had won La Liga by 11 points. Your player had carried you to the Champions League semi-finals with goals and performances that seemed destined for glory. Yet here you were again eliminated in humiliating fashion, watching Liverpool celebrate reaching the final while Barcelona trudged off in silence. Barcelona had won the domestic double, while Madrid finished third and trophyless. But none of it mattered, because Barcelona had collapsed in Europe again. The narrative Madrid had pushed for years, that domestic success meant nothing without Champions League glory, was being proven correct in the most brutal way possible. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn, because despite the Anfield disaster, despite another Champions League collapse, Messi's 2018-19 season was statistically magnificent. 51 goals across all competitions, 12 Champions League goals, second highest in the tournament despite the semi-final exit, 36 La Liga goals, winning his 6th Pichichi trophy, 19 assists, numbers that would have won multiple Ballon d'Ors in previous eras. And Ronaldo? 34 goals for Juventus in his first season in Italy, Serie A champion, yes, but eliminated from the Champions League quarter-finals by Ajax, the same team that had knocked out Real Madrid. No individual trophies, no standout performances in Europe's biggest matches. The 2nd of December 2019, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Messi won his 6th, the record holder, alone at the top, ahead of Ronaldo, ahead of everyone in history. The voting margin was massive. He received 686 points to Virgil van Dijk's 679. Ronaldo finished third with 476 points. Messi's acceptance speech was telling. He thanked his Barcelona teammates, acknowledged the Anfield defeat, but insisted that individual excellence shouldn't be measured solely by team trophies. "I've been fortunate to win many beautiful collective trophies," he said, "and this individual trophy is primarily down to what we did as a team." For Barcelona fans, this 6th Ballon d'Or felt like vindication and frustration simultaneously. Vindication that Messi had pulled ahead of Ronaldo definitively. 6 awards to Ronaldo's 5. The debate was settled, right? But frustrated because the narrative around Messi's greatness was still contingent on Champions League collapses. Yes, he'd won 6 Ballon d'Ors, but the Anfield disaster would forever taint the 2018-19 season. Real Madrid fans dismissed the 6th Ballon d'Or as sympathy voting. Messi won because journalists felt bad about Anfield. Van Dijk should have won. He'd actually reached the Champions League final and won it. Messi's individual brilliance without team success was empty, they argued. Ronaldo's 5 Ballon d'Ors came with Champions League titles. That's what separated them. The debate raged across social media, sports programs, and fan forums. Was 6 Ballon d'Ors more impressive than Ronaldo's 4 Champions Leagues in 5 years? Did individual excellence matter if it didn't translate to team trophies in football's biggest competition? Could Messi truly be called the greatest if he kept collapsing in the Champions League? What made the debate particularly intense was that both players' peaks were starting to fade. Messi was 32, Ronaldo was 34. The years of scoring 50-plus goals seemed to be ending. The next generation, Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, and Mohamed Salah were pushing for recognition. The window for Messi or Ronaldo to definitively settle the rivalry was closing. The 2019-20 season started with Barcelona looking vulnerable. Valverde's tactics seemed stale. The squad was aging. Sergio Busquets, Gerard Piqué, and Luis Suarez all declining. Real Madrid, meanwhile, had hired Zinedine Zidane for his second stint as manager, brought back Gareth Bale, integrated younger players like Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, the gap was narrowing. By February 2020, Real Madrid had overtaken Barcelona in La Liga. The Camp Nou crowd was whistling their own team. Valverde was sacked, replaced by Quique Setién, whose possession-based philosophy seemed like nostalgia for Guardiola's era, rather than a genuine tactical evolution. Then, COVID-19 shut down football worldwide. March 2020, empty stadiums, suspended seasons, uncertainty about whether the competitions would even finish. When football resumed in June, everything felt different. No crowds, no atmosphere, just players and tactical execution. Real Madrid thrived in the empty stadiums, won every match after the restart. Sergio Ramos converting penalties, Karim Benzema scoring crucial goals, and the defense holding firm. They won La Liga with 87 points. Barcelona finished second with 82, 5 points. The margin wasn't huge, but the momentum shift was undeniable. Champions League resumed in August 2020 with a condensed format single-leg knockout matches in Lisbon. No home advantage, no second chances, just one match to decide everything. Barcelona drew Bayern Munich in the quarter-finals, the team that had humiliated them 7-0 on aggregate in 2013. Surely this time would be different. The 14th of August 2020, Estadio da Luz, Lisboa, Bayern Munich, 8-2 Barcelona, 8 goals. Thomas Müller scored twice. Philippe Coutinho, on loan from Barcelona to Bayern, scored twice and assisted another. Joshua Kimmich, Robert Lewandowski, Ivan Perisic, and Serge Gnabry all scored. Barcelona's defense looked amateur. Their midfield is non-existent. Messi didn't score one of Barcelona's goals, but his expression throughout the match said everything. This team was broken. The 8-2 wasn't just a defeat, it was humiliation on a scale Barcelona had never experienced. Worse than the 5-0 to Madrid in 2010, worse than Rome, worse than Anfield. This was Barcelona's entire philosophy being exposed as outdated. Their legendary possession football dismantled by Bayern's high press and pace. For Real Madrid fans watching from home, this was the sweetest revenge. Barcelona had won La Liga twice since Ronaldo left, had celebrated Messi's 6th Ballon d'Or, had claimed domestic superiority. Yet when European competition demanded excellence, they collapsed spectacularly. 8 goals conceded, the worst defeat in Champions League knockout history. Messi sat in the dressing room after the match and made a decision. He wanted to leave Barcelona. 20 years at the club, 6 Ballons d'Or, 10 La Liga titles, 4 Champions Leagues. None of it mattered anymore because the club had become a toxic combination of poor management, aging squad, and tactical stagnation. The transfer request sent shockwaves through football. Messi leaving Barcelona, the player who'd been there for 13 years, who'd scored 634 goals for the club, who was Barcelona in every meaningful sense. Impossible. Except it almost happened. Messi's lawyers argued his contract allowed him to leave for free. Barcelona's board insisted the release clause was 700 million euros. Negotiations became public, messy, bitter. The relationship between Messi and the club that had nurtured him was disintegrating in real time. Eventually, Messi stayed, not because Barcelona convinced him, because leaving would have required a legal battle, and Messi didn't want his legacy tainted by lawsuits against the club he loved. But the damage was done. Messi's relationship with Barcelona's board was destroyed. The team's decline was accelerating. And worst of all, the narrative around Messi's greatness was being defined by Champions League disasters rather than his 6 Ballon d'Ors or countless individual brilliance. For Barcelona fans, the 8-2 represented the end of an era. Not just a bad result, the complete collapse of everything the club had built under Guardiola. The philosophy that had conquered Europe in 2009 and 2011 was now being exploited by teams with better athletes and modern tactics. Real Madrid had won nothing that 2019-20 season in Europe either, eliminated by Manchester City in the round of 16. But they'd won La Liga, they'd avoided humiliation, and most importantly, they were building something sustainable while Barcelona crumbled. The Messi-Ronaldo rivalry was entering its final phase, 6 Ballon d'Ors to 5. But the question lingering over everything was whether individual awards mattered if one player had dominated the Champions League while the other kept collapsing in it. The answer would come in the most unexpected way possible, because what nobody knew in August 2020 was that Messi had one more chapter to write, one final achievement that would silence his critics and cement his legacy beyond any doubt. But first, Barcelona had to fall apart completely. Barcelona's financial collapse didn't happen overnight. It was years of reckless decisions finally catching up with a club that thought it was too big to fail. Philippe Coutinho for €160 million, a record that Barcelona couldn't afford even when they paid it. Ousmane Dembele for €105 million. Antoine Griezmann for €120 million. Three players, €385 million combined, none of them worth even half their transfer fees. But the spending didn't stop there. Wages are spiraling out of control. Messi earns over €100 million annually when you include bonuses and image rights. The entire squad's wage bill consumes 70% of Barcelona's revenue. For context, UEFA recommends clubs keep wages at 50% of revenue. Barcelona were 30% over that threshold and still signing players they couldn't afford. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed everything. Empty stadiums meant no matchday revenue. Tourist attractions at Camp Nou closed. Sponsorship deals renegotiated downward. By summer 2020, Barcelona's debt had reached €1 billion. €1 billion. The club that prided itself on more than a club was drowning in financial mismanagement. And still, nobody in Barcelona's leadership acknowledged the crisis publicly. President Josep Maria Bartomeu kept promising new signings, new contracts, new projects. Behind closed doors, the club was selling future television rights just to pay current wages, mortgaging tomorrow to pretend today was sustainable. The 2020-21 season started with Ronald Koeman as Barcelona's new manager, another legendary player tasked with fixing problems far beyond tactics. His first press conference was brutally honest. We need to lower expectations. This team cannot compete for the Champions League right now. Barcelona fans didn't want honesty. They wanted solutions. They wanted Messi scoring goals and winning trophies like he had for 15 years. They wanted to believe the 8-2 was an aberration, not a symptom of systemic collapse. Messi tried. 30 La Liga goals that season, created more chances than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues, but the team around him kept failing. Lost to Real Madrid 3-1 at the Camp Nou in October, lost to Juventus twice in the Champions League group stage, watching Ronaldo score against his former rivals, while Barcelona's defense crumbled. Lost to Paris Saint-Germain 5-2 on aggregate in the Champions League round of 16, Kylian Mbappé scoring a hat-trick in the second leg at Camp Nou. Real Madrid weren't much better that season. Eliminated from the Champions League by Chelsea, lost La Liga to Atletico Madrid, but at least they weren't collapsing financially. At least their wage structure was sustainable. At least they had a plan beyond hoping individual brilliance would mask institutional failure. Barcelona's one achievement that season was the Copa del Rey, beat Athletic Bilbao 4-0 in the final. Messi scored twice, including a chip over the goalkeeper that was so perfect it seemed computer-generated. He lifted the trophy, kissed it, and smiled for the cameras. But everyone watching knew this was a consolation prize. Copa del Rey mattered when you also won La Liga or Champions League. Alone, it was just Barcelona's season being salvaged from complete disaster. March 2021, presidential elections at Barcelona. Joan Laporta won, returning to the presidency after leaving in 2010. His campaign promise was simple: fix the finances and keep Messi. The two goals seemed compatible until someone actually examined Barcelona's books. The debt wasn't €1 billion, it was €1.4 billion. The wage bill wasn't just unsustainable, it was criminal negligence. La Liga's financial fair play rules meant Barcelona needed to reduce their wage bill by €200 million just to register new contracts, including Messi's. Laporta assured everyone publicly that Messi would stay. New contract negotiations were progressing well. An agreement was closed. Everything would be fine. Behind the scenes, panic. Barcelona's lawyers were explaining that La Liga's rules made it mathematically impossible to register Messi's contract, even if he played for free, without selling multiple key players first. The 2021 Copa America provided a temporary distraction from Barcelona's crisis. Messi is playing for Argentina in a tournament they haven't won since 1993. 4 Copa America finals lost 2007, 2015, 2016, and the centenary edition in 2016 again. 4 times, Messi had reached the final with Argentina. 4 times he'd failed to deliver the trophy his country demanded. This was the criticism that had haunted Messi his entire career. 6 Ballon d'Ors, but no major international trophy with Argentina. 4 Champions Leagues, but all with Barcelona's legendary squad supporting him. Could he actually elevate a team beyond what their talent suggested, or did he need perfect conditions to dominate? The 2021 Copa America would answer that question definitively. Argentina started slowly, drew with Chile, struggled against Paraguay, but as the tournament progressed, Messi took control. 3 goals in the group stage, assists against Ecuador in the quarterfinals, another assist against Colombia in the semi-finals. The 10th of July 2021, Maracanã Stadium, Rio de Janeiro, Argentina versus Brazil in the Copa America final. 67,000 Brazilian fans packed into the stadium, almost all supporting Brazil. Messi played 90 minutes of the most disciplined, tactically intelligent football of his international career. Didn't force anything, trusted his teammates, let Angel Di Maria score the winning goal in the 22nd minute. When the final whistle blew, Messi collapsed on the pitch, not from exhaustion, from emotional release. 15 years of international disappointment. 15 years of being called a Barcelona player who couldn't perform for Argentina. 15 years of criticism that he wasn't Maradona, wasn't passionate enough about the national team, couldn't win when it mattered most. All of it erased in 90 minutes. Argentina were Copa America champions. Messi lifted the trophy, kissed it, and cried. Not the careful, controlled emotion he usually showed. Real tears, real relief, real joy. For anyone who'd spent years arguing Messi couldn't win major tournaments without Barcelona's system, this Copa America was undeniable proof. He'd carried Argentina through the tournament, played alongside teammates from inferior clubs, adapted his game to what the team needed rather than demanding the team adapt to him. 1. Real Madrid fans watching from Spain tried to downplay it. Copa America wasn't the World Cup. Argentina barely beat Brazil. Di Maria scored the winning goal, not Messi. But even they knew this mattered. Messi's legacy had been incomplete without a major international trophy. The 5th of August 2021, press conference at Camp Nou. Messi sat at a table, couldn't speak for 90 seconds because he was crying too hard. Eventually, he composed himself enough to say, "I'm leaving Barcelona." The shock rippled through football instantly. Messi leaving Barcelona after 21 years, after 672 goals, after becoming the club's greatest player in history. The previous summer's transfer request had seemed dramatic. This was final, real, devastating for Barcelona fans who'd grown up watching Messi define their club. Laporta held his own press conference hours later, explained that La Liga's financial rules made registering Messi's contract impossible without violating regulations that could result in severe penalties. Even though Messi had agreed to a 50% wage reduction from €100 million annually to 50 million, Barcelona's total wage bill was still too high. They'd needed to sell players. Nobody wanted Barcelona's aging, overpaid squad, so Messi had to leave. For Barcelona fans, this was the ultimate humiliation. Not losing Messi to Real Madrid or Manchester City or another club offering more money. Losing him because Barcelona had mismanaged finances so catastrophically that they couldn't afford to keep their greatest player, even when he volunteered to take a massive pay cut. Real Madrid fans experienced complicated emotions. Barcelona's collapse, obviously. Satisfaction that years of financial recklessness had caught up with their rivals, but also a strange sadness that the rivalry, the greatest individual rivalry in sports history, was ending not with a transfer to a competitor, but with Barcelona simply imploding under their own incompetence. The 10th of August 2021, Paris Saint-Germain held a press conference. Messi walked out wearing PSG's blue jersey with the number 30 on the back. Neymar sat next to him, grinning. Kylian Mbappe was in the front row, applauding. The most expensive attacking trio in football history had formed not because PSG needed Messi, but because Barcelona's financial crisis made him available. The 2021-22 season became Barcelona's reckoning. Without Messi, they finished second in La Liga, 15 points behind Real Madrid, eliminated from Champions League group stages for the first time in 20 years. Europa League knockout stages, losing to eventual winners, Eintracht Frankfurt, with 60,000 German fans, somehow infiltrating Camp Nou and making it feel like an away match. Real Madrid, meanwhile, won La Liga with 86 points, won the Champions League, their 14th, with one of the most improbable runs in tournament history. Down 2-0 on aggregate to PSG in the round of 16, they scored 3 goals in 17 minutes to advance. Down 5-3 on aggregate to Manchester City in the semi-finals, they scored twice in 2 minutes to force extra time, then won the second leg 3-1. The final against Liverpool in Paris, Madrid won 1-0. Courtois made 9 saves, Vinicius Jr. scored the only goal. The club that had lost Ronaldo 4 years earlier, that had struggled through transition seasons, had rebuilt and won Europe's biggest trophy again. For Real Madrid fans, this Champions League was particularly sweet. Barcelona were playing Europa League football, while Madrid conquered Europe. Messi was in Paris, struggling to adapt to French football, scoring just 6 League One goals all season. The narrative Madrid had always pushed, that Champions League glory mattered more than individual awards, that team success trumped personal statistics, was being proven correct. Barcelona fans watched Real Madrid's celebrations from home and wondered how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. 3 years earlier, Barcelona had won the domestic double with Messi scoring 51 goals. Now they were a Europa League team, financially crippled, watching their greatest rival win the Champions League while their greatest player struggled in France. December 2021, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Messi won his 7th, record-extending, untouchable at the top of the all-time list. The Copa America had been enough to sway voters despite his disappointing start at PSG. Lionel Messi, 34 years old, no longer at Barcelona, playing in a weaker league, is still the Ballon d'Or winner. Ronaldo finished 6th, 36 years old. 32 goals across all competitions for Juventus and Manchester United. Still scoring, still performing, but clearly past his absolute peak. For the first time since 2010, neither Messi nor Ronaldo finished in the top 2 of Ballon d'Or voting. The era was ending, not with a dramatic finale, but with a gradual decline. Both players are still elite, still capable of moments of brilliance, but no longer dominating every conversation, every award, every debate about who was best. Real Madrid's 2021-22 Champions League victory felt like the final statement in the Messi-Ronaldo debate. Not because Ronaldo contributed to it, he'd left years ago, but because it proved Madrid's system could win without him, that their success hadn't been solely dependent on individual brilliance. That building a sustainable club structure mattered more than any one player, no matter how talented. Barcelona's collapse proved the opposite, that relying on Messi to mask institutional failures was temporary. That financial irresponsibility would eventually catch up, no matter how many goals your star scored, that a club's greatness required more than just the world's best player. The 2022 World Cup loomed, November in Qatar. Messi's final realistic chance to win the trophy that had eluded him. Ronaldo's last opportunity to add the one missing piece from his own collection. Both players were aging. Both knew this was likely their final World Cup. Both carried the weight of national expectations that had crushed previous generations. For Messi, the pressure was particularly intense. Copa America champion, 7 Ballons d'Or. But without a World Cup, would he truly surpass Maradona in Argentina's collective memory? Could he be called the greatest of all time if he never delivered football's ultimate prize? For Ronaldo, the calculation was different. 5 Ballon d'Ors, 5 Champions Leagues, records that would stand for decades. But Portugal's expectations were different than Argentina's. Winning Euro 2016 had already satisfied much of the national hunger for a major trophy. The World Cup would be the final glory, but not the defining one. What nobody knew in the summer of 2022 was that the World Cup would provide the ultimate answer to the Messi-Ronaldo debate. Not through direct competition, they wouldn't face each other on the pitch, but through individual performances that would finally, definitively settle which player's legacy would endure as the greatest of their generation. The stage was set, Qatar awaited, and Lionel Messi was about to write the final chapter of the greatest rivalry in sports history. The 20th of November 2022, Lusail Stadium, Qatar. Argentina versus Saudi Arabia in the World Cup opener. Messi converted a penalty in the 10th minute. Argentina dominated possession, created chances, and looked comfortable against a team ranked 51st in the world. At half-time, they led 1-0. Everything was proceeding exactly as expected. Then the second half happened. Saudi Arabia scored in the 48th minute, scored again in the 53rd. Argentina's defense collapsed. Messi's expression shifted from confidence to concern to something approaching panic. When the final whistle blew, Saudi Arabia had won 2-1, one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history. Argentina Copa America, champions, favourites to win the tournament, had lost to Saudi Arabia. For Messi, this felt like destiny repeating itself. 4 previous World Cup campaigns, 4 disappointments. 2006 eliminated in the quarterfinals, 2010 quarterfinals again, 2014 lost the final to Germany. And now, at 35 years old, in his final realistic World Cup, he is losing to Saudi Arabia in the opening match. The criticism came immediately. Messi can't perform under pressure. Argentina always chokes in big tournaments. 7 Ballon d'Ors mean nothing without a World Cup. The same narratives that had followed him for 15 years, now amplified by social media's instant judgment. Cristiano Ronaldo, meanwhile, had his own drama unfolding. Portugal's opening match against Ghana, he scored a penalty, became the first player ever to score in 5 different World Cups. The record seemed significant until you watched the actual match. Ronaldo looked slow, isolated, frustrated when teammates didn't pass to him. Portugal won 3-2, but Ronaldo's performance was pedestrian at best. Days later, Portugal's manager, Fernando Santos, benched Ronaldo for the round of 16 match against Switzerland. Benched the captain, the all-time leading scorer, the player who defined Portuguese football for 2 decades. Portugal won 6-1 without him. Gonçalo Ramos, Ronaldo's replacement, scored a hat-trick. The message was brutal. Portugal were better without their legendary captain. For Ronaldo, this was humiliation beyond anything he'd experienced. Benched at a World Cup, watching his team thrive without him. The final proof that age had caught up, that his body could no longer match his ambition, that this World Cup, his last, would end not in glory, but in irrelevance. Argentina, meanwhile, was finding its rhythm. Beat Mexico 2-0. Messi scored from outside the box, a shot that seemed to carry the weight of 15 years of disappointment. Beat Poland 2-0 to advance from the group stage. Messi didn't score but created both goals. The team was clicking. The pressure was transforming into focus. Round of 16. Against Australia, Argentina won 2-1. Messi scored the opening goal, a typical Messi finish. Left foot from inside the box, precise and unstoppable. Quarterfinals against the Netherlands. This match was chaos. Argentina led 2-0. The Netherlands equalised in the 83rd minute, and again in the 101st. Extra time couldn't separate them. Penalties. Messi scored his penalty, so did his teammates. Argentina won the shootout, advanced to the semi-finals. But the match had been emotionally draining, Messi arguing with the referee, with Dutch players showing a passion and anger rarely seen from him. This wasn't just about winning a trophy, this was personal. Semi-finals against Croatia, Messi scored a penalty, then assisted Julian Alvarez for Argentina's second goal, then created the third with a run that beat 3 Croatian defenders before setting up Alvarez again. Argentina won 3-0, dominant, convincing. Messi at 35, playing like he was 25. The final opponent? France, the defending champions. Kylian Mbappe, the player everyone said would inherit Messi and Ronaldo's throne. The young superstar who'd already won a World Cup at 19, who played for PSG alongside Messi, who represented everything about football's future, while Messi represented its past. Portugal, meanwhile, had been eliminated by Morocco in the quarter-finals. Ronaldo played 30 minutes as a substitute, didn't score, couldn't change the match. Walked off the pitch knowing his World Cup career was over. No trophy, no glory, just the knowledge that he'd been benched and Portugal had played better without him. The 18th of December, 2022, Lusail Stadium, Argentina versus France. World Cup final. Messi scored a penalty in the 23rd minute. Di Maria scored in the 36th after a brilliant team move that Messi helped orchestrate. Argentina led 2-0 at half-time. The World Cup seemed won. Messi's legacy seemed complete. Then Mbappe happened. 2 goals in 97 seconds. Penalty in the 81st minute. Volley in the 81st. Suddenly, the match was 2-2. Extra time. Messi scored in the 108th minute, a scrappy goal from close range after his first shot was saved. Argentina led 3-2. Surely now, Mbappe scored another penalty in the 118th minute. Hat-trick, 3-3. The youngest player to score a World Cup final hat-trick. The match went to penalties. The shootout was excruciating. Mbappe scored. Messi scored. Back and forth. Pressure mounting with every kick. When Gonzalo Montiel converted Argentina's 4th penalty, the match was over. Argentina had won. Messi had won. The World Cup trophy, the one prize that had eluded him, was finally his. Messi collapsed on the pitch. Teammates piled on top of him. 75,000 fans in the stadium are chanting his name. Millions more are watching worldwide, witnessing the completion of the greatest individual football career in history. 7 Ballons d'Or, 4 Champions Leagues, Copa America, and now the World Cup. The coronation ceremony seemed designed for Messi. FIFA president Gianni Infantino draped a black ceremonial robe over Messi's shoulders before he lifted the trophy, making him look like a king being crowned. The symbolism was perfect. This wasn't just winning a tournament. This was the final proof that Messi was the greatest of all time. For Argentina fans, this was redemption 46 years in the making. Not since Maradona in 1986 had Argentina won the World Cup, with their greatest player delivering match-defining performances throughout the tournament. Messi had carried them, led them, willed them to victory through sheer brilliance and determination. For those who'd spent years arguing Ronaldo was better, this World Cup made the debate impossible to sustain. Ronaldo had been benched. Portugal had been better without him. His final World Cup had ended in irrelevance. Meanwhile, Messi had scored 7 goals, provided 3 assists, won the Golden Ball as the tournament's best player, and lifted the trophy that completed his legacy. The Messi-Ronaldo rivalry didn't end with a dramatic final match between them. It ended with Messi and Qatar holding the World Cup, while Ronaldo watched from home, his own tournament having collapsed in disappointment. 7 Ballon d'Ors to Ronaldo's 5. World Cup champion. The debate was over. Not because Ronaldo wasn't great, he was phenomenal, one of the greatest players in history. But because when both careers were complete, when every trophy was counted and every performance analysed, Messi had simply achieved more. December 2023, Ballon d'Or ceremony. Messi won his 8th, record-extending, untouchable. 36 years old, playing in MLS for Inter Miami, still winning football's most prestigious individual award. The voting wasn't close. Erling Haaland finished second despite winning the treble with Manchester City. Ronaldo wasn't even nominated for the top 30. For the first time since 2003, Cristiano Ronaldo's name wasn't on the Ballon d'Or shortlist, playing in Saudi Arabia, scoring goals in a league nobody watched. Still brilliant by normal standards, but no longer relevant in conversations about who was currently the world's best. The era had ended. 20 years of Messi and Ronaldo dominating football, pushing each other to unprecedented heights, creating a rivalry that defined a generation. 8 Ballon d'Ors to 5, World Cup to no World Cup. The numbers told the story definitively. But here's what made the rivalry truly special. It wasn't just about who finished with more trophies. It was about how they pushed each other to become better than anyone thought possible. Ronaldo's relentless pursuit of Messi transformed him from a flashy winger into a goal-scoring machine. Messi's competition with Ronaldo made him add leadership and international success to his already perfect skill set. They made each other greater, and in doing so, they gave us the greatest rivalry sports has ever seen. The rivalry is over. The debate is settled. Lionel Messi stands alone at the peak of football history with 8 Ballon d'Ors, a World Cup, and a legacy that will define greatness for generations to come. But this story was never just about trophies or statistics or who finished with more awards. It was about 2 players who refused to accept anything less than perfection, who pushed each other beyond what anyone thought possible, who turned football into art and rivalry into legend. Think about what they achieved together. 20 years of dominance, 13 Ballon d'Ors between them, 9 Champions League titles, goal-scoring records that seemed impossible until they broke them, then broke them again. Matches where the entire world stopped to watch 2 players compete not just for victory, but for immortality. Cristiano Ronaldo transformed himself from a talented teenager at Sporting Lisbon into arguably the most complete goal-scorer in football history. Over 900 career goals, 5 Champions Leagues, success in England, Spain, and Italy, a relentless work ethic that redefined what athletes could achieve through sheer determination and obsession. Without Messi, Ronaldo would still be considered one of the greatest players ever, but it was the rivalry with Messi that elevated him to legendary status. Every goal Messi scored demanded a response. Every trophy Barcelona won required Madrid to match it. The pressure of competing with someone who made the impossible look routine transformed Ronaldo into something more than just a great player. And Messi, without Ronaldo, he'd still be the most naturally gifted footballer in history. But the constant comparisons, the years of finishing second in Ballon d'Or voting, the pressure of knowing that every performance would be measured against Ronaldo's all of it, forced Messi to add dimension to his game, leadership, international success, the ability to carry teams beyond what their talent suggested. They made each other better. That's what great rivalries do. They don't diminish, they elevate. They force competitors to find levels they didn't know existed. They create moments that transcend sport and become cultural touchstones. Barcelona versus Real Madrid will continue. El Clasico existed before Messi and Ronaldo and will exist long after both retire. But for those of us who watched the rivalry in its prime 2009 to 2018, 9 years of direct competition in Spain, we witnessed something that will never be replicated. Two players, same generation, same league, same rivalry. Both are legitimately the best in the world, both pushing each other to heights that redefined what excellence meant. That doesn't happen often in sports. It might never happen again. The numbers are settled now. 8 Ballon d'Ors to 5. World Cup champion versus European champion. More assists, more goals created, more individual brilliance captured in moments that seem to defy physics. But if you were a Real Madrid fan who watched Ronaldo score in 3 consecutive Champions League finals, who saw him deliver trophies when your club needed them most, who witnessed him transform himself into a machine designed solely to win, your loyalty to Ronaldo doesn't need to change. He was magnificent, historic, one of the greatest to ever play. The debate isn't about disrespecting Ronaldo, it's about acknowledging that when two all-time greats compete directly for 2 decades, eventually one pulls ahead. Eventually, the numbers become undeniable. Eventually, history makes its judgment. And history has judged Lionel Messi as the greatest footballer of his generation, possibly of any generation. A player who combined natural talent with competitive drive, individual brilliance with team success, domestic dominance with international glory. A player who started as a 13-year-old, needing medical treatment just to grow, and finished as the most decorated player in football history. The kid from Rosario, who couldn't afford growth hormone treatment, became the most complete player the sport has ever seen. That's the story. That's the legacy. That's what makes Lionel Messi's career not just great, but transcendent. Cristiano Ronaldo pushed him every step of the way, made him better, made him prove it year after year after year, and in doing so, gave us the greatest rivalry sports has ever witnessed. The era is over, the debate is settled, but the memories, the goals, the trophies, the moments that made us believe football could be more than just a game, those will last forever. This is the definitive story of Messi versus Ronaldo, the rivalry that defined a generation, the competition that elevated 2 players to immortality, the 2 decades when football belonged to Barcelona's number 10 and Real Madrid's number 7, and when the final whistle blew, when every trophy was counted and every record examined, Lionel Messi stood alone at the peak, the greatest of all time, the final answer to the greatest debate in sports history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into football's greatest rivalry, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the highlights and examine what really makes sports legendary. Drop a comment below, are you Team Messi or Team Ronaldo? Even now, even after everything, the debate lives on in our memories. Thanks for watching, and remember, greatness isn't just about winning, it's about how you inspire others to reach higher than they ever thought possible. Messi and Ronaldo did exactly that, for each other, for their teams, and for everyone who watched.